Hello everybody, this is Spawnman16, and for this video, this is clearly going to be something that I didn't really think I was going to be talking about. And well, throughout the last week or so, I've been pretty much hearing about the repeal of a certain set of rules. And that basically is the repealing of net neutrality. Now, honestly, when I heard about this at the beginning, I was being quite fearful, thinking that bad things are going to happen. But now that I've put some thought process into it, I feel like that the repeal of net neutrality is not as bad as other people are claiming it to be. Because apparently the people of Twitter and Reddit are just spreading this fear like wildfire. And I've been seeing like articles on Google come up all over the place when I search it up. But really, in all honesty, I just get the feeling that we're just fearing over not much of anything. Because I'm looking at this article right here that's clearly stating that the end of net neutrality is not as bad as it seems. Because here's the thing. The people of Twitter and Reddit, and possibly even Facebook as well, are pretty much saying that apparently the repeal of net neutrality is going to be the death of the internet, that it's the end of the world. When really, in all honesty, it really isn't. Because here is what this article says. And if you guys want to read this for yourself, there will be a link in the description, so that way you know that I'm not lying. Now, as we know of what the FCC has done, basically the FCC is standing for Federal Communications Commission, they pretty much decided to repeal on net neutrality, which went into effect in 2015. Yeah, only back in 2015. Now just think about that for a moment. Net neutrality was not enacted until 2015. And honestly, you need to think about this for a moment. Prior to 2015, what was the internet like? It really wasn't much any different than what it is now. So, I really honestly think that if net neutrality does get repealed, the internet isn't really going to change much. Now, basically, continuing on from what this article says, and even though this article has been issued a few months ago, back last December, but I still feel like it's relevant. And do keep this in mind, this is kind of a long article, so bear with me here. It pretty much states, net neutrality is somewhat of a misnomer. And do keep this in mind, I know for a fact that I will be saying some words wrong, so bear with me on this. A better descriptor is content agnostic. Again, I have a hard time pronouncing words that I have a hard time just reading anyways. What net neutrality implies is that internet service providers, or ISPs for short, in the US, cable companies and telecoms like Comcast, Verizon, must treat all content equally, regardless of what it is or who owns it. For example, AT&T is not currently allowed to provide its subscribers faster access to DirecTV, which it does own, and slower access to Netflix, which it does not own. But personally for me, I don't really care much about DirecTV or Netflix because I don't use them. The end of net neutrality would, in theory, keep that in mind, allow ISPs to charge more/less for, or slow down/speed up different types of content. Removing net neutrality has generated a huge amount of media coverage in the US, mostly casting the debate in terms of an epic story of victims and villains. The victims here being that of us Americans. Pretty much us American consumers and businesses. As certain content is priced out of reach, the story goes is that basically the internet becomes less rich, small enterprises would pretty much suffer, public schools and universities will see their internet connection slow down to a practical crawl, the best minds will lead the country in frustration, and everyone will pay more for Spotify and Netflix. And the villains, pretty much here, are the ISPs. Long reviled for high prices, poor service, and aggressive retention tactics, the ISPs lobbied the government hard for this change, and stand to benefit the most at the expense of long-suffering subscribers. Networking and infrastructure companies that are also likely to gain as the rules change, or as the rule change will require upgrades to networking hardware and software. This is a griping narrative, but how much of it is actually true? Because believe me, when I was seeing this stuff on Twitter and Reddit, again, people are just being so freaking scared out of their freaking minds. Like, seriously, the question would be, would the end of net neutrality really make a big difference on the average internet user? They pretty much say no. And there are pretty much about seven things to be noted of. First of it being that it's worth pointing out that net neutrality rules are quite new. The law was only enacted in mid-2015, so that's only about, like, say pretty much 3 years. And 3 years in terms of a lifetime is not all that long. Although the concept has been around since the 1990s, prior to 2015, there was no net neutrality, and, well, look at how the internet was back then. The internet was just fine. Pretty much for most people. Occasionally, an ISP was caught slowing down, aka throttling, certain sites, but public pressure or legal actions tended to keep the ISP honest. There is little reason to believe that a future with no net neutrality regulations would be very different from the past. So yeah, seriously, you just need to wrap your head around that. That the internet prior to 2015 was no different. Because prior to 2015, net neutrality was never even there. And nothing much happened. So moving on, secondly, the issue with net neutrality is multi-speed internet service, not web censorship. An ISP might be frustrated that Netflix consumes 35% of its bandwidth at peak hours, but it cannot legally block it. Yeah, an ISP might be irritated at the fact of Netflix consuming 35% of the bandwidth at peak hours, but the ISP cannot legally block that, with or without net neutrality. Even with no net neutrality, the most that an ISP could do would be to slow down access to Netflix and charge people for higher speeds. But again, as I stated earlier, I don't really care much about that because I don't use Netflix. In reality, this is not likely to happen. Because really, if that were to happen, the public backlash would be too severe, and more likely the ISPs would discriminate by offering their own preferred content faster and cheaper. Ironically, this is already happening under the net neutrality regulations. AT&T, for example, offers DirecTV access as a quote-unquote zero rating product, i.e. it does not count towards data caps. Third, the end of net neutrality rules will lead to a closer link between cost and consumption. While net neutrality may be conceptually appealing, it is not equitable. Is it fair that a few super users are allowed to clog up networks by downloading movies, playing data-hungry online games, and not paying more for it? Why shouldn't ISPs be allowed to price data according to volume, type, or speed? Fourth, ISPs could use any extra revenue generated from high bandwidth users now this is a word I really usually struggle on right here, subsides, basically spelled SUBSIDIZE, so again, like I said, I have trouble with words like that. The cost to regular users to improve network infrastructure. If they start to charge more for content, there will be a lot of pressure from subscribers and regulators to improve service levels in return. Fifth, the practical difference for most subscribers will be minimal. Most ISPs already charge higher prices for higher speeds, or bundle less attractive services, like basically channels you never really watch anyways, with more attractive ones, basically faster internet access. The only difference without net neutrality would be that slow speeds could affect some sites more than other sites. Now keep in mind where I said that slow speeds could affect some sites, not all. Sixth, net neutrality, however intuitively appealing, is a form of government control. History has taught us that government control and intervention often inhibits progress and innovation. If ISPs are less regulated, one might imagine companies springing up that would provide better, faster, cheaper service, thus promoting innovation. And finally, ISPs are unlikely to make any quick moves to change the status quo. Legal challenges to the removal of net neutrality are likely because the fact that midterm elections are coming later this year in 2018, and public opinions of ISPs are already low. Most large ISPs have also pledged not to make any dramatic moves in the event that net neutrality is repealed. So basically, net neutrality is an attractive concept, and its removal might instinctively rub you or a lot of other people the wrong way, which it has done already, but that doesn't mean it should be kept in its current form. Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, has stated that net neutrality is quote-unquote not our primary battle at this point. If he's not worried, why should the rest of us be? Now here's another thing. Do you really think that if net neutrality does get repealed, do you really think that we're going to get charged for using YouTube, get charged for using Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr or DeviantArt? Do you really think that's going to happen? Because if that did, that would just be completely absurd. So really, honestly, what is being said here is that worst case scenario is that we could possibly pay a bit more for our internet service. So really, in all honesty, the repeal of net neutrality is not as bad as people are claiming it to be. But the people of the internet, swear, a lot of good people of the internet these days are just, they can be really dark, really mean, just plain crazy, or just downright insane. and pretty much saying that, oh, net neutrality repeal is the end of the internet as we know it. It's not. Because seriously, as stated, these ISPs are unlikely to make any of these, pretty much make any quick changes. Like, it's not like they're going to be making those kind of changes, like, just like that. Like, the moment that net neutrality is repealed, ISPs are going to make their move. No, they ain't doing that. Because, as stated, and I will repeat this again, ISPs are unlikely to make any quick moves to change the status quo. And most ISPs have also pledged not to make any dramatic moves in the event of net neutrality being repealed. So, really, reality is that if net neutrality does get repealed, we're just going to be going back to the internet prior to 2015, which, if you guys do think about it, wasn't really all that different back then, because that was only like 3 years ago, and nothing really much happened during that time. So again, ISPs, all they could really do is just charge us a bit more for internet. That our internet bills could go up a bit. So all I have to say is here, people, for those of you who are freaking out about this whole net neutrality repeal, y'all need to calm yourselves down. It's not as bad as it sounds. And if you people are disagreeing in your heads about what I've said here, and want to say like some sort of hate comment for the things that I've said already, just go ahead. Go ahead. I just read and move on. Because I really feel like this is basically the real truth here, that the repeal of net neutrality is not as bad as it sounds. Alright? Because again, it's not like we're going to be charged for using YouTube or using Facebook or using Twitter or using Tumblr or DeviantArt or Instagram, Snapchat, or any other kinds of well-known sites. It's not the end of the world, people, if net neutrality gets repealed. It's not the end of the goddamn world. Because, I mean, it's not like net neutrality gets repealed, the entire internet's wiped out. No. The internet's forever. Because believe me, you would have to do something really, really, really big if you're wanting to shut down the whole entire internet. So again, you people freaking out over the net neutrality repeal need to calm down. We will be fine without net neutrality. It's just really going to be the case of maybe, just maybe, that we would have to pay a little more for our internet service. But whether they decide to do that or not is really anybody's guess. Alright? So, that'll pretty much do it right there. So, thank y'all so much for watching. And as always, my outro shall handle the rest. So I'll be seeing you guys next time.